Guys, it's Good King 205 here. We're going to do a little bit of a different type of video here today. I'm going to do the Halo tier list. Um, Something you may or may not know, as to all my videos that I've posted recently, is I am a massive, massive Halo fan. So, let's kick things off here. We got our... Oh, why is that? There we go. Typical S through F tier. We're going to get it off with Spartans, or Assault, whatever that one is. Can't tell. It's one of the Spartan ones. Spartan Assault, I think that one is. Personally, Spartan Assault, Spartan Strike, down there at F tier. I mean, they're not the worst, but in terms of all the Halo games, they are considered, in my opinion, the worst. Moving on, let's go in canonical order from Halo 1 to Halo 5. So we're going to get it all started with Halo Combat Evolved. Now, this was actually the third Halo game that I played. I went 2, 3, then 1. But I think that Halo Combat Evolved, in my opinion, deserves A tier. I mean, it is the game that revolutionized console first-person shooter games. It is the game that revolutionized the Xbox. It revolutionized how first-person games were designed. The music in the game was absolutely flawless. Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore made a masterpiece. The gameplay was fun and has incredible replayability. Moving on to Halo 2. Now, Halo 2 was the very first game that I played. And very deservedly so, I would say that Halo 2 is very much an S tier game. It revolutionized online gaming. It continued in the same amazing fashion that Combat Evolved left off. It was able to tell two stories. One about the Master Chief, about being this badass Spartan who really was invulnerable, essentially. But then it also told the story about the Arbiter. And the Arbiter, I mean, that's literally a story of betrayal. You know, he failed his mission in Combat Evolved to kill Master Chief, therefore he suffered the ultimate sacrifices and was stripped of his rank and was given the shameful role of the Arbiter, and basically sent on suicide mission after suicide mission. But getting to play as the Covenant in that game was so freaking cool. It was such a neat idea, plus it added dual wielding. You really can't go wrong with dual wielding. And then the anniversary of Halo 2 came out. My God, was that thing amazing. That Halo 2 anniversary was definitely deserving of an S tier. Let's see. Moving on to Halo 3. Again, Halo 3, S tier. It was the release date, or it was the launch game of the Xbox 360. The first console that I owned. And Halo 3 was something magical. The campaign is infinitely replayable. The multiplayer still has an incredible active community to this day. The leveling system, the progression in the game was incredible. The online competitive community is still strong with that game, which is amazing to see for a game that's 13 years old. Moving on now, we've got Halo 3 ODST. Now, personally, Halo 3 ODST, in my opinion, would be a B tier. I love that game to death. I love it to death. It is a completely underrated Halo game. Most people have it like in the C range because, you know, it didn't really have a whole lot of different gameplay from Halo 3. I mean, it literally is almost the exact same gameplay from Halo 3. But I love the idea behind ODST. You know, the idea that you're an ODST, you get to sneak around, you can engage if you want. You're trying to piece together a story of what happened to your ODST fire team. The real reason why I don't have it higher than B is, I mean, it didn't have multiplayer because it was technically, when they were developing it, a planned expansion for Halo 3 that eventually became its full game. But it did add Firefight, and it allowed you to be able to play as Sergeant Johnson, which is really, really fun. Um, the thing that I really, really love about Halo 3 ODST is the music. Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore. Not only was the game itself a complete tonal shift from being a badass soldier to being an ODST, or a badass Spartan to an ODST, sorry, but it took everything that made Halo Halo and kind of changed it without changing the ideal feeling of it. Still felt like it was a Halo game. It just was something different, something new, something refreshing. It was the first real spin-off game in the Halo franchise besides Halo Wars, which, moving on, Halo Wars, the first Halo Wars game I will put at C tier. I'm a big fan of RTS games. And Halo Wars had a pretty good campaign, had some good music, had some really, really cool cutscenes for what, 2009? Was that when that came out? 2009, yeah? Somewhere around there, 2009. And it was a typical RTS. The one thing that I really was not a fan of was, due to it being locked to the Xbox 360, there really wasn't. There was a lot of limitations to the game. There was a lot of constraints, like the population of your armies was very, very limited due to hardware specs, and it wasn't the ideal RTS experience. I thought they should have just made it cross-platform with the PC as well, which later they did with Definitive Edition, so I'll forgive them for that. Moving on to Halo Reach. Now, for me, Halo Reach was one of the Halo games that I spent the most time playing. Therefore, not S tier, I'm going to put Halo Reach in the A tier category. A lot of people would disagree with this, but a lot of people would also agree with this. Now, my reasoning for putting it in A tier, the story that it told was beautiful. You know, it was one of those ones that you knew from the start that you were going to fail. You knew from the beginning of the game that you were, like, that Reach was going to fall. But it was beautifully done. Like, they didn't force anything. It didn't feel like the ending of it was forced. It felt natural. It felt flowing perfectly throughout the game. The music, again, Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore just knocked it out of the park. The multiplayer, the best Halo progression system I have ever seen. And I will fight tooth and nail for that progression system to make a return. That progression system, I spent hours upon hours upon hours grinding to get armors, grinding to get that next rank, grinding to, just play with friends. It was so much fun. And then you got Forge. Some of the custom games that came out of Halo Reach are absolutely legendary, like Speed Halo. Stepping Stones was another really, really big favorite of mine. You've got all of those game types, and then you've also got like the grinder ones. Those were so much fun to play, and it really sparked that creativity that the community had, and they were able to make some incredible stuff. So, moving on next is, of course, Halo 4. Halo 4, it's a weird one. It's a weird one for me. I'm going to put Halo 4 in the C tier category. Mostly because I liked the story. I liked where the story went for the campaign. The art style that it shows, I was very, very, very much in disagreement with what 343 did with the art style. I did not like it. The campaign, in my opinion, did not have a ton of replayability. The multiplayer, I mean, it felt like a typical, first-person shooter multiplayer type game. Me being, big into Call of Duty 2, I personally didn't think that Halo 4's multiplayer was bad because it felt like Call of Duty. But I can see why people, hated it, because it very much tried to copy what, what some of the COD games had done, with kill streaks and all that kind of stuff. But for what it was worth, I thought it was pretty good. The progression system in the multiplayer was still, it was still a very, very good multiplayer progression system. I really enjoyed it. Being able to change like actual classes was something that was really, really cool. Like changing from wet work once you got to like level, what was it, like 60? Wet work to Pathfinder to Ranger to it was really, really cool, and you could get armor specific pieces for those specific classes. It was a really neat and interesting idea that they did. I was pretty fond of it. Forge, eh, it was okay. It just basically felt like Halo Reaches. Um, and then Spartan Ops. I had a real love-hate relationship with Spartan Ops. I liked Spartan Ops, but at the same time I didn't. I felt that they could have done in a little bit of a better way. Like it was a neat idea to kind of have, a story-driven firefight type game. It was a good idea. I just think it could have been better executed, but it wasn't terrible in my opinion. Moving on to Halo 5. Now, a lot of people would put Halo 5 down here in the F tier. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and put them in D tier. Now, the only reason that I put Halo 5 in D tier is one of two reasons. The soundtrack for Halo 5 was pretty darn good. They did a pretty decent job with Halo 5's soundtrack and Forge. Halo 5 Forge and custom games, mind you, were amazing. The stuff that has come out of that is honestly what keeps me playing Halo 5. I don't play Halo 5 for the story. I don't play Halo 5 for the multiplayer. And let's talk about that. Halo 5's story was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. You play as Master Chief for what, 3, 4 missions? All the marketing that they had done, like a year or two in advance, like the whole Hunt the Truth, was completely non-existent in the game. And the whole fight that they were hyping up between Spartan Locke and Master Chief was in about a 2-minute long cutscene. Now, usually that's okay, but they had hyped it up so much to the fact where it was a real letdown. The story was very, very linear. There was really no exploration. There was no encouragement to explore. And let's move on to multiplayer because I've talked too much about Halo 5's campaign. Halo 5 multiplayer. Oh man, it's something special in it. Halo 5 multiplayer is something that I strongly, strongly dislike. Arena is just a mess. It doesn't feel like Halo in any way. Warzone, although I liked Warzone when it first came out, it really got old really, really fast. And it just felt like a modified firefight essentially, and it just wasn't great. It wasn't great. It was an interesting concept. They could have executed it in such a better way. Like actually had the enemies fighting each other instead of just fighting you. That would have been really, really neat to see. And yeah, just Halo 5 was just a hot mess. Plus, it had microtransactions, which made me absolutely hate the multiplayer because it had microtransactions. I despise any game that has microtransactions because it is very much an anti-consumer practice. And not to say that it couldn't be done well. Like, there are games that have done microtransactions well, but Halo 5 did not. And moving on to the final game on the list, Halo Wars 2. Oop, didn't mean to put you down there. I'm going to put Halo Wars 2 on A tier. Reason why is it is definitely the best RTS experience out there for Halo. The cutscenes that 343 and Creative Assembly made for that game were absolutely phenomenal. the story they told about the Banished was something new, something refreshing. It was really, really good and fun to see. It felt like a legit RTS game with all the skill trees they added into the game. It was really nice. It added some great multiplayer stuff that made multiplayer fun, and the addition of all the new leaders that they made post-release were really, really fun. And let's talk about the music. Gordy Habe did a phenomenal job with Halo Wars 2 soundtrack. Absolutely great job, Gordy. You guys did a great job with that music department. The story was phenomenal, as I said. And then there are my complaints with it. I'm not a fan of the microtransaction system they have in multiplayer. Granted, they aren't the most intrusive, which is, I'm okay with that. You can play the multiplayer without having to pay for the microtransactions. I mean, you can do that in essentially any game, but we all know how that works out most of the time. And the expansion, Awakening the Nightmare. I loved it, but there are some, there's some plot stuff there that's kind of eh. But anyways, overall, Awakening the Nightmare was a DLC expansion that didn't feel like you were being just scammed for anything. It made you feel like you were getting something and you got rewarded for paying for it. You actually got a little bit of a story out of it. You got something really, really fun. You got to fight the Flood for the first time since Halo 3, which was in 2007. And that's the closest we've come to any mainline Halo game fighting the Flood since 2007. So, and there's one last thing with Halo Wars 2. Halo Wars 2, I absolutely loved the fact that they had a hybrid style art. The hybrid art style that Halo Wars 2 had was a beautiful blend of old and new. They took enough of the old and combined it with some of their new ideas, and it just looks great. It looks great. I love the art style. 343, if that's what you're going to be giving us in Halo Infinite, I'm going to give you guys a good high five, and thank you for at least listening to the fans. You've already shown us last year and this year that, yes, you guys are returning to a more classic art style, but I'm just curious to see how the Covenant, if the Covenant are even in Infinite at all, how the Covenant are going to look. That is my biggest concern. And so this brings me to my final point. My final point here, what do I expect coming in for Halo Infinite, and where do I see it in terms of what we're going to get? In my personal opinion, I'm hopeful. I'm very much hopeful for 343 that they can make this game really, really great. But as it sits right now, I'm seeing Halo Infinite probably in the B. Probably the B tier is probably where I'm going to put it. Unless, of course, it blows me out of the water. But as of right now, I'm thinking around the B tier. That is still destined to change, but just because I'm putting it down in the B tier does not mean that by any means I am not excited for Infinite. I'm really excited for it. And even though it's a B tier game, in my opinion, what I'm projecting it to be is a B tier game, I'm still hoping that it delivers and blows my expectations out of the water so I can put it up in either the S or the A tier. I'm really hoping. I'm hoping that we, don't see multiplayer take another plunge. Because the campaign is one thing, but you gotta have the multiplayer. Halo multiplayer is a staple of the franchise, as well as, the man himself, Master Chief. But anyways, that is my opinions on this Halo tier list. Let me know if you guys agree down in the comments where you guys think these games should be. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Remember to subscribe to join the King's Council. The party never ends when you're a king. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.